You ready for SEC play at this point?
Yes, we are. Excited, man. I think had a good Christmas break, came back. Obviously, good to get a game under our belt with Dartmouth and, have close to a week to prepare for Missouri. I think it's going to be a really big challenge. Some question marks still for them in regards to who's going to be available. I think we'll expect to see some guys back that haven't played for a while. So that changes the preparation a little bit. But, we're excited to get on the road and get this thing started.
What's kind of just your take of the SEC as a whole at this point?
Still a very good league, man. Still a lot of really good teams. Going to be really hard to win on the road, and I think it's as important as ever to take care of your home floor. But, maybe not as many, top-level teams as we had last year, but still a lot of really, really good teams at the top and just really deep. I think it's going to be any road wins you can get in the league, I think are going to be really valuable this year.
How unique a scout is Missouri, just kind of the way they change defenses and try to keep you from getting into what you want to do? Yeah,
I mean, they are that way. Obviously, Dennis comes from like the Florida State family in terms of the disruptive defense and, the base and out of bounds defense and just trying to take you out of your comfort zone. And, we've seen it enough now to where I feel like we have a decent understanding of what they're trying to do, but executing and taking care of the ball against it are, a different story. So I think we're well prepared. I expect to see some wrinkles from them tomorrow night that we haven't seen, but it's going to be a challenge. It's definitely a take care of the ball scout tomorrow night.
How far did Xavian, do you think, come since November to December?
I think he's come a long way, just getting comfortable, being consistent. I think he scored, over 15 in 6 out of our last 7 games or something like that. Been very efficient from the field, taking care of the ball, making plays really, really well. And, just kind of showing the player that we knew he was capable of when we got him. So, I'm really happy for him. I'm happy for us because it's given us, a big lift in terms of our play. And now he's got to do it in SEC play starting tomorrow night.
How much more battle tested do you feel like you guys are going into conference play compared to last year?
At about a 180 flip, right? Like we just didn't play a very challenging non-conference schedule last year. Not necessarily by our choice, but some of the teams that we matched up with weren't as good as expected. And so our strength of schedule wasn't great going into SEC play. Whereas this year, I think we have the 3rd or 4th best strength of schedule of high major teams. Going into conference play. 7 or 8 of our games against top 100 opponents, 3 against top 10 teams. Like we've played some really good clubs and didn't necessarily take it easy on ourselves. So I do think we're ready. We're more ready, for this road matchup than we were last year going into Kentucky.
I know you guys want to shoot the ball better, but if you don't, are you still good enough in the other areas to win this league or win these games the way you're doing it?
I think we need, we're on some nights at least we're gonna have to shoot it, a little bit better. But I do think, our floor is pretty high, and I think if we rebound well, and the same things that we've talked about a lot over the last month and a half, if we take care of the ball, which has been an issue, we've been a little better that way, and if we can defend physically without fouling, right? I think if we're good in both those areas, I think we can be pretty good. But in this league, you go on the road, you're gonna, to win on the road, you're gonna have to have a night where you make 8 or 9, 10 threes. That gives you a little bit of a lift in some other areas. So, that's kind of where that's at. I do think we're capable, shooting the ball better. So we'll see how it starts tomorrow night.
So, you guys lead the nation in rebounding margin. And I think, not to touch a sore spot, but are last among Power 4 teams in 3-point shooting
Percentage.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like an incredible extreme there.
Yeah, well, it in a way, it's why, a 3-point shot, even when we're not shooting a crazy high percentage, is actually a decent possession. If the other guys on the floor know that shot's going up, we have a pretty good chance of getting it back if we don't make it. So that's why we stress taking care of the ball so much and not giving up possessions, because our margin of error is a little thinner, with the 3-point shooting percentage this year. And we can't give up possessions that way. But, like that, we're built that way. We're big, we're athletic, putting pressure on the glass on both ends of the floor has raised our floor collectively. And if we can shoot a little bit better, I think we can be pretty dang good.
Xavian, just in the open court, he's pretty special in the open court, isn't he?
Yeah.
Just creative, dynamic,
Yeah,
confident.
I think he's really good with the ball, and I think we've started putting him in some better spots offensively where he's playing more downhill and playing in more space, which I think, is important. But just his ball control, his quickness, his handle, and his ability to pass are all, really good talents that he has.
Really, since the second half of the Duke game, it seems like Alex has come on. I know the on-off splits for him are a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just you guys played through him a little more. Like, is there something you've done, or is it just Alex is executing a little bit?
I think he's playing better. I think he's taking better care of the ball. We've been playing through him a lot, and there were some games, where he hasn't valued the basketball enough, and it's led to some, turnovers and bad possessions. I think he's done a great job over the past, however long that time frame is of understanding kind of his expectation, with us playing through him more and making kind of more sound and simple decisions at times. And I think he's competing really well. So, he's kind of turned into, our playmaking hub. I think he's averaging close to 4 assists or whatever it is, which is really good for a front court player. And, with a lot of responsibility comes a big ask and making sure we value the ball and defending and rebounding on every possession. Like he's done a good job that way. Absolutely.
How would you evaluate his 3-point shooting? I know that was something he wanted to do more of this year or come back for.
The reality is, I think a lot of his looks last year that were clean were when we were playing small, with him at the 5 and Tommy at the 4. And so, we're attacking drop coverage and he's popping back in the middle of the floor with nobody guarding him, so those shots show up a little more now with him playing the 4. And I think teams respect him more and they're more mindful of that. So they're running at him, on catches. And he just hasn't had the same volume of open catch and shoot looks this year. He's become a better shooter. It hasn't shown in the games, but just watch him in practice every day and his consistency. I think it's one of those things where some games, depending on coverages, it'll show up and some games it won't. Some teams are switching him, in ball screens. So it's like when teams switch, you're not going to get a lot of good wide open looks, right? So, and that's kind of the ask of him is he's got to be very mindful of how the defense is guarding him and just make the simple play. Like when teams are doubling him in the post, just find the open guy. We don't need to make, a guaranteed assist pass. Just get it out, let the other guy make the play, and just kind of take what the game, gives him. And I think it's a challenge because people guard him different ways. It's not like he sees the same thing every game and he's just comfortable. It's like, all right, are they going to bring a double this game? Or are they not? Playing off that. But the 3-point shooting, I think, and we've looked at it as more of a function of playing more of the 4 than the 5 this year.
And he's not forcing it either. He's not going
and he shouldn't. If the defense gives him open looks, let it fly. If not, he's really capable of putting the ball on the floor and making the right play.
How's Mike going to build his confidence at the line?
Work in
How's
progress.
he going about it?
I'm just putting in the time, practice. I think that's there's nothing special or crazy unique that we can do other than address it and not run from it. And a lot of players over their careers have struggled from the foul line. But it could be a big lift for us if we can get even to the 50, 60 level, consistently. And I think if he gets more comfortable that way, he'll be more aggressive offensively, because I think in the back of his mind at times, all right, am I, going to go to the line or not? So, not running from it, just making sure he's working on it, holding him accountable that way, and hopefully he just incrementally improves here, for the rest of the year.
How are you such a good free throw shooter?
How was I such a good free throw shooter? Had good hand-eye coordination, like we talked about, and that was just one of my skills, man. If I couldn't shoot, I wouldn't have played. So that was something that I had to be efficient.
Did you have
with.
a number that you shot a week or a day?
Not necessarily.
Sure.
No.
You have to be cognizant of when you're playing him, when you're in the bonus, having him on the floor and teams intentionally fouling him.
I think in the first half, not something I'm going to be super worried about to start, but definitely the end of games right now.
What's your 2 cents on college teams potentially going after G League players now?
I'd say it's an interesting time in regards to the player acquisition part of our business, and the rules are ever changing, and at times not being adhered to or implemented in terms of whether guys are eligible or not. And I think that's the biggest thing for us. And Matt Painter said it, we just want to know what kind of the framework is that we're working between, and not get into a season where, we have a roster and then other teams are adding pros in the middle of the year. That, we're just not going to do that. At least not right now. Now, if this is a continuing trend over the next 3 to 5 years, maybe the mid-season addition is something that we'll look at. But I do think a little bit, spirit-wise, there's been guys that have become eligible at semester, that's been a thing before, but this is new, where we're going, whether it's here in America or internationally trying to find pros to add to rosters in the middle of the year. It's just a little different. I don't think that's necessarily what the idea behind like college sport is, but I don't have any issues with teams trying to do everything they can to put themselves in positions to be successful. And if they're able to get guys eligible, it's fair at this point, you know. So
Do these schools have scholarship, or does that even matter anymore? Or is they just making them a walk-on and?
yeah, I mean, there's ways,
Yeah.
you know, like there's ways. Whether you
Shell
have a
game
roster
wage-
limit.
Shell game wage, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, with NIL, like I think the distinction between being a walk-on and a scholarship player is not as important as it used to be.
You think it's a loophole that's gonna get shut down though, potentially?
I think
Adding guys who have had any pro experience.
I don't know exactly where they're gonna draw the line.
Shouldn't it be between NBA and then any other pro league?
The problem is, the issue with that is we have a declaration deadline in college, right? So we've always operated on the assumption if somebody stays in the draft past the deadline to come back to college, that they're just done.
Sure.
And they're moving on. And now guys are retroactively being able to, guys that have clearly stayed in past the deadline, guys that have been drafted,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That nobody within this current landscape would have thought of being eligible are now playing. And that's just where I don't necessarily have a problem with guys that have been drafted playing, but they shouldn't be allowed to play after we've declared these guys as not being eligible up until now. So like then you open up, if you get rid of this deadline, now you're entering a little bit like Major League Baseball's world where guys can get drafted out of high school and then they decide if they want to sign or not, and then they can still go to college, which we'll see. I don't know, like that might be a different timeline, but I think that would be unique, and that would be kind of an interesting thing where now NBA teams are having to decide, like, all right, am I taking this guy? What's the likelihood that he actually goes to the NBA or goes back to college? Like, there's a lot of different things that are going to pop up. And again, like, we think we're pretty nimble, and we think we have the ability to adjust pretty well, but just want to know what the rules are.